Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're discovering the fascinating history of Elizabeth II 10-cent coin. Let's start the video.
In 1953, a new face appeared on coins across the Commonwealth. It was the portrait of a young queen, Elizabeth II, just 27 years old, stepping into a role that would define an entire era. Among those coins was the humble 10-cent piece, small in size, but carrying with it the weight of history, empire, and change. Today, we uncover the story of the 1953 Queen Elizabeth II 10-cent coin, its design, its origins, and the fascinating world it represents. Chapter 1. The year 1953. A new reign begins. The year was 1953. The Second World War was less than a decade behind, and much of the world was still rebuilding. Britain and its Commonwealth were transitioning into a new age, with shifting politics, rising independence movements, and a changing global order. Amid this backdrop, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II took place on June 2, 1953. For the first time, millions around the world watched on television as the young Queen was crowned in Westminster Abbey. It was more than just a ceremony. It was the beginning of a new symbol of continuity, stability, and tradition for nations tied to Britain. With her coronation came a wave of changes, including the coinage. The long reign of George VI had ended, and the world needed new coins to bear the portrait of the new monarch. Chapter 2. The 10-cent coin, small but significant. The 10-cent coin, though small, was a vital part of daily commerce, known as a dime in North America and as the 10-cent piece across other Commonwealth territories. It carried practical importance. But coins are more than money. They are miniature works of art and historical records struck in metal. Every detail, the monarch's face, the national symbols, the engraver's initials, tells a story. The 1953 10-cent coin would become the first of its kind to bear Elizabeth's portrait, making it a cornerstone of numismatic history. Chapter 3. The design of the 1953 10-cent coin. Let's look closer at the design itself. On the obverse, the front, appears the youthful profile of Queen Elizabeth II, her hair styled with a laurel wreath. Designed by Mary Gillick, a renowned sculptor. Gillick's design was praised for its simplicity and grace. Unlike the more formal portraits of past monarchs, this one showed a softer, more approachable image. The inscription read, Elizabeth II DEI, Gratia Regina, Latin for Elizabeth II. By the grace of God, Queen. On the reverse, depending on the issuing nation, the imagery varied. In Canada, the 10-cent coin bore the famous Bluenose schooner, symbolizing maritime heritage. In other Commonwealth countries, national emblems like plants, coats of arms, or iconic designs appeared. Yet across them all, the 1953 coin symbolized the start of a new reign. Chapter 4. Canada's iconic 1953 dime. Among the most famous is the Canadian 1953 10-cent coin. Why? Because it introduced a design quirk that became legendary among collectors. The so-called *** no shoulder fold, and shoulder fold varieties. Here's what happened. Mary Gillick's portrait of Elizabeth was adapted for Canada's coinage. But when the dies were engraved, some early strikes failed to show the small fold in the Queen's gown at the shoulder. The detail was faint, almost invisible. Collectors call this the no shoulder fold variety, and it's rare. Later corrections improved the detail, creating the shoulder fold variety. Today, spotting the difference can mean the difference between a modestly valuable coin and a highly sought-after piece worth hundreds. Chapter 5. British Caribbean 10-cent coin, 1953. Canada wasn't the only place where Elizabeth's new portrait appeared. In the Caribbean, the British Caribbean territories issued their own 1953 10-cent coin. Smaller and lighter, it bore Elizabeth's youthful portrait on the obverse, while the reverse displayed a wreath surrounding the denomination. For colonies across the Caribbean, this coin marked the beginning of a new numismatic era. Elizabeth's reign would be stamped into every pocket, every market, every transaction. Chapter 6. The symbolism of a new era. The 1953 10-cent coin carried more than economic value. It carried symbolism. Every new monarch's coinage is a declaration of legitimacy. For Elizabeth II, appearing on coins worldwide was part of cementing her role as queen, not just of the United Kingdom, but of a Commonwealth spanning multiple continents. The choice of Mary Gillick's portrait, youthful, fresh, and approachable, was deliberate. It was meant to inspire loyalty, admiration, and a sense of continuity after the uncertainties of the war years. Chapter 7. Production and Minting. Minting the new coins was no small task. In Canada, the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa struck millions of dimes in 1953. In Britain, the Royal Mint handled Caribbean coinage. Each die had to be carefully prepared, and the variations, in detail, like the famous shoulder fold, error, are evidence of the challenges engravers faced. For collectors today, these technical differences are treasures, offering insight into the minting process of the 1950s. Chapter 8. Collectability and Value. Now let's talk about collectability. A standard 1953 10-cent coin may be worth only a few dollars in circulated condition, but the rarer varieties, especially the Canadian no shoulder fold dime in high grade, can fetch much more. Coin grading plays a big role here. A dime that circulated heavily might show scratches and wear, while one preserved in mint state condition can command a premium. Numismatists treasure the 1953 series because it represents the dawn of Elizabeth's reign, and because of those subtle varieties that make the hunt all the more exciting. Chapter 9. The coin in daily life. Imagine holding one of these coins in 1953. In Canada, a dime could buy a chocolate bar, a bus ride, or a newspaper. In the Caribbean, 10 cents might cover a loaf of bread or a small basket of fruit at the market. Coins like these weren't just symbols of empire, they were everyday tools of life. They passed through countless hands, each with its own story, each carrying the portrait of a young queen, who would go on to reign for 70 years. Chapter 10. Legacy of the 1953 10-cent coin. Today, the 1953 Queen Elizabeth II 10-cent coin stands as a numismatic milestone. It was the beginning of Elizabeth's presence on coinage worldwide. It introduced design quirks that collectors still debate and chase, and it captured a moment in history, the optimism, the transition, and the continuity of monarchy in a changing world. The young queen whose face appeared on that tiny silver coin in 1953 would go on to become the longest reigning monarch in British history. And the coin itself? It remains a silent witness, a small piece of metal that connects us to that pivotal year when a new era began. Closing. So, the next time you see a 1953 10-cent coin, hold it a little longer. Notice the details. Think of the hands it passed through, the pockets it jingled in, the history it represents. Because in that small coin lies the story of a queen, a commonwealth, and a world stepping into a new age. Thanks for joining us on this journey into history. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin histories from around the world. See you next time.